All right, so our garden is about a month in, and it is so exciting to see progress from last year, because honestly last year was so overwhelming to come out here and garden and to see all the grass and the wheat that we had growing, because we ended up feeding the chickens in here if you're following us very long, and it was just this big huge catastrophe. And so when I look at this garden, it's so encouraging, because yeah, we have some few grass sprouts coming up, but my method to that is I'm just gonna go get more cardboard and keep layering. So all the grass that's growing, which is not much compared to last year, this is nothing. And what's so nice is all of the heavy mulch that we put down, which was probably at least 4 or 5 inches, has done such a good job of retaining moisture. And so when you go and pull these grass weeds out, they just pick out really easily. So let's just do a garden update. So last year I planted tomatoes in the main part of the garden, and I did it with cages, just those standard tomato cages. And I did a couple in here with tomato cages to kind of see the difference. And I saw this idea on Facebook or YouTube that somebody was planting them up against their hog panels, and I just thought that's such a great idea, and to kind of weave them in and out. And we used some little clips as they grow that we got off of Amazon, which have been so great because you can use them, you can move them around as the plant grows. But I'm going to keep weaving this plant in and out of this hog panel so that the hog panel ends up being kind of the cage, the stability for the plant. And you can see that it just looks really nice and green. Although some of these do look a little wilted in the last couple days, so I'm not sure if that's, it can't be a lack of water because we've had so much beautiful rain lately. So I'm not really sure what that is. I'm not a tomato expert, but you know what? This year's motto was just plant. So I'm really excited with these 6 or 8 tomatoes that we have growing up against the hog panel. We've been able to see some fruit already, which is super exciting. So to continue our hog panel fence, I just went ahead and threw in about 6 cucumber plants so that they can climb up and down the hog panel as their trellis. And I'm using those little clips too as they grow. I'm keeping them weaved up. That way we don't have fruit growing everywhere. And then I also had a lot of issues with just not knowing where the roots were when I wanted to water anything. And so if you have this idea, you can just put a stalk or kind of some kind of marking above your hog panel where your roots are. So here's all my cucumber plants. You can see all the little budding little cucumbers. These are just kind of like little eaters. So I'm super excited about that. We've already pulled off quite a few. And here's some more here. You can see we just got a little grass sprout coming up here. Just pulls pretty easily actually, because it's so moist in there. You can see I even got the whole root of the grass. And I honestly think that has a lot to do with how heavy of a mulch system we put down. Wood chips and mulch on top. So here's the clip that I'm talking about, that we just kind of clip it up as we go, and then these are removable, so then you can keep moving them as the plant grows. And it also gives a really good structure to the plant. Here's a little cucumber. We better try it out. Fresh out of the garden. Give her a little wipe and she'll be fine. So crunchy. It's really nice to be able to grow food on your own and be able to see some actual fruit come out of it. From last year we didn't have a lot of that, so it was kind of frustrating. So here we go. I think these are butternut squash or acorn squash. And I grew them up against there, which I'll learn for next year. I forgot that they aren't climbing plants. They're they just stay in a big huge cluster. So next year I won't waste my hog panel fence area, since they're not really gonna grow out of control. But nonetheless, they grow and they look nice. So I'm not complaining. Got a little weed down here, but look, just kind of pulls out nice, which is nice. And then we have more cucumbers, I believe, and then I can't remember what these are either. Squash of some kind. I have all the markers down below, but I buried them too low. Oh, here we go. Look at that. I think it's either some kind of melon. I don't know what that little guy is. Cute. Looking good. And there's tons of flowers on here. So I'm really hoping all our little pollinators are doing a good job of doing their thing. So you can see this little sprout at the end. This is what I'm talking about. I'm just going to grab a clip and I'm going to put it up there. So that's what I'm going to do now. So on this side of it, we eventually want to put our pigs in here that we're going to get this summer yet. And at the end of the summer season, when all of our produce is picked out of the garden, I want to have the pigs come in here and just root this side up, because eventually I'd like to plant into this side as well. And we'd originally wanted to do raised beds in here, so we're kind of changing up our ideas, but that's why there's so much grass and weeds. So I really want the pigs to just come in here and demolish it. And with their tough snouts, they will just rip into it. Actually, chickens do a phenomenal job of that too. So we want to have the pigs in here this fall before winter, and then we want to have the chickens in here as well to do just that tilling and fertilizing and scratching and picking and all of that. So back to my little plants here. So I'm just gonna keep moving them up here. That way they're not gonna take over my whole garden, and then we'll be able to see the fruit a lot easier. So I love these clips because they don't go tight against the plant. They just gently move it up, gets it off the ground, and also it stops your plants from rotting against the ground. And like I said, then you kind of have an idea of where your roots are to water as well. But honestly, we have not watered this garden in, like, I would say 3 weeks at least. We've had some rain. We don't get a whole lot of rain in the summer in South Dakota. But I accredit the moisture retaining to all these wood chips and mulch system that we did, so that it can actually keep down what it does give us in rain. We bought a few watermelon plants from the greenhouse, and I just was like, I don't want them to take over all the area. I didn't have any hog panel left. Let's just throw them over on this side, cover it with wood chips really heavily and mulch, and see what happens. So I put the little tires around here, and you can see there's grass growing all around here, but my plan of attack now that they're established is to come through here and just keep layering. So I'm gonna go ahead and put cardboard on here first, all of this grass. Then I'm gonna cover it with a lot of that leftover mulch and fertilizer. And then on top of that, I'm gonna put another layer of wood chips. And if it comes through that, I'm just gonna keep layering. Because if you look at Mother Nature, it just keeps layering. It's never bare, you know? And so we're just kind of trying to follow that method and keep suppressing the weeds by not exposing them to sunlight. So the little watermelon are doing good. We found this hog panel contraption thing that somebody made, and so it's just kind of a good little trellis to get our plants off the ground. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing with that. I'm just going to kind of clip them on here so that they kind of have a place to go. And you want to be careful when you're doing this because the little flowers can be pretty brittle, and you don't want to knock them off. But eventually, these aren't growing, they're growing pretty fast, and I just don't know how much trellis we're gonna need. So we might end up kind of, as they grow, adding more trellis so that they can grow up something. So that's the little watermelon update. This year I really wanted to do some trial and error. I wanted to do some same plants in different locations. So I decided to do some container gardening. It's not like we're for a lack of space, but if you're in our little suburban area in your backyard and you don't really have a whole lot of space, container gardening, and they're working. They actually, I don't know if I could tell a difference between them and my ones that are growing up against the hog panel. So they're doing pretty good. And I did the same system. I just, heavy mulched them. There's a few weeds coming up here and there, but like I said, they're super easy to pull. And these are nice because if you do have a hailstorm coming in, you can easily take them out, put them in your house, and protect them. Whereas the rest of my garden is kind of shot if we have a hailstorm coming through. So here's a little fun update on Lincoln's little green bus plants that he started out in our little green bus over there. It's still yellow, but it's our greenhouse that we turned in from a bus. And so these are his little plants that he started out, and they're looking amazing. I think he has a pumpkin and some kind of squash. So he's pretty excited about that. But it's really fun to see your kids just throw something in the ground and to see the work of their hands and just to see their face light up when their stuff actually grows. And I'm the same way. I'm kind of like that little kid who's like, I'm just going to throw this seed in the garden and see what happens, you know? And look, we have a little zucchini or a little yellow squash. I'm going to go ahead and pick that because I don't want it to grow any bigger. So look at that, looking good. A little crookneck squash. Then we have 4 cabbages, and actually I'm surprised at how good they're doing because I was just expecting some kind of varmint to come in here, some kind of insect to just eat my leaves like crazy, and they're doing amazing. You have a few spots down there, but inside it's looking really good. This one looks the best. It looks so amazing. And then I threw some tomato plants up in those tomato cages just to kind of do some comparison, like what what worked better? How did the tomatoes thrive better in a bucket versus up against the hog panel? I didn't really enjoy the tomato cages last year. I just felt like the tomato cage was not structurally sound enough to hold the weight of the tomato plant. And then plus I felt like I could never see the fruit in those tomato cages versus here. We can walk on both sides of the hog panel and be able to see, you know, the fruit on both sides. Then my zucchini, I think that's what all 4 of these are. I didn't realize I was planting so many zucchini. It's kind of like if you have 1, you have enough to feed a neighborhood. And I think I'm going to have enough for 4 neighborhoods. So that's a blessing. We are happy to share. I don't even know if this is a zucchini, but it looks phenomenal. I think it has a lot of potential. It's got a lot of yellow flowers down there, so we'll see what actually comes. And then this little guy too. So there's the rest of our, you know, our hay and our mulch that we brought from the barnyard and from the chicken coop. And it's just sitting there, and it doesn't really serve a purpose other than allowing the weeds to not grow everywhere. And then also, like I said, this fall, after all this garden is done, we're gonna throw the chickens back in here and the pigs and just let them go to town at leveling this all out and moving it around and shuffling it around and get rid of all of our weeds, because this system worked so good for us this year. And I'm actually enjoying gardening this year because I don't have to be in here weeding for hours. Like I remember my mom sitting on her butt for hours weeding our garden between the rows. And I was like, there's gotta be an end to this madness. Like, why is everybody spending hours weeding and not enjoying gardening? And so we just tried something new, you know? And I think it's like the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And I just didn't want to keep being insane because I really wanted to enjoy gardening. And the fact that I didn't enjoy it was because it was just weeding and I never really got to enjoy any of the fruit. So this year is different and I'm really excited. And even my husband said that. I don't know what it is about the fear of failure for me sometimes that I just don't want to try some things because I'm like, well, what if it doesn't work? And this year I just kind of let it all hang out. And I just kept thinking in the back of my mind, I think all of this manure and all of this wood chips and all of the fertilizer, you know, from the chicken coop is just going to be too much nitrogen or too much ammonia from the pee and the poop and all of that. And I was like, I think it's going to kill the plants. I think it's going to kill the plants. And we just went for it. And honestly, I was really nervous the whole time because I'm like, if we plant all this and it dies because it's too hot from all of that fertilizer, what are we going to do? Like, we're going to have no plants and no fruit and no produce to put up in the garden from the garden. And so, I mean, for the most part, I just kind of got rid of that fear by just diving into it. And so that's an encouragement for you, is just try things and see what works. And for us, we found what really works. And I think it's like the key to success in gardening. We're onto something here, and it's not rocket science. It's just doing what Mother Nature does and just allowing the organic things that come from the trees and, you know, the hay from the fields and the fertilizer that's natural from your animals to do your weeding and your feeding and your nourishment for your plants, as well as keeping in the moisture that you already have coming down from the sky, which is God's way of saying, I'm going to protect you, I'm going to care for you, I'm going to take care of you. So that's really exciting to see our update after a month of how the garden is going. So thanks for joining on our journey today. I hope you guys learned something, that it's okay to just try things. It's okay to fail. It's okay, but as long as you're not failing because you didn't try. Maybe that's the tagline I should use. So hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for hopping on our channel. Make sure to like or comment below with anything that you guys have learned, things that are working in your garden, because we are no pros, but we're just people that want to keep trying to grow things and to be able to share of our abundance. So thanks for hopping on. Subscribe and like below.